What exactly is practice? Should I know a little bit more about this topic? How come I don't know more about this topic? Practice is one of those topics that we can always learn a little bit more about. And just for you to learn a little bit more about it, we're going to be talking about deliberate practice today. There was this piano student that one time went up to his piano teacher, and you could tell the student was extremely pissed. The student goes up to the teacher and says, "Yo, teacher, here I am practicing my ass off, non-freaking stop, and I'm not seeing any kind of improvements. All these other students are seeing improvements. How come I'm not seeing improvements?" The teacher puts his glasses down, and anytime a teacher puts their glasses down, it's about to mean business. And the teacher says, "It's because you practice just with your fingers. If you practice just with your fingers, then you're never going to see that much improvement. But if you practice with the mind, then 1 to 2 hours is plenty." Now, what exactly does this mean? What this means is that this student, he was physically there. He was doing all the reps. He felt as though that he was taking action. But his mind was in La La Land. His mind was thinking about Disney World, thinking about the latest football game, thinking about the latest Netflix show, all this random stuff, everything but what he was practicing on. And that's just like a lot of us, let's be real. In today's episode, I want to teach you about deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is different than the mindless practice where you just show up and put in the reps. When you're deliberate about something, you are not only putting in the reps, but you are tracking your improvements. You are measuring yourself. Your mind is in the task, so you're not getting super distracted. So those are going to be a few of the topics that we're going to discuss today. And I just want you to know, extremely important topic, because anything that you personally want to learn in this world, you can learn with deliberate practice, as long as you're physically capable of doing it. Physically capable? Yes. Because if you're 3'4" and you want to become a center, all the deliberate practice in the world may not necessarily get you there. So pick something that you can be wise on. Don't pick something that is completely out of the stretch of the imagination. Pick something that you're physically capable of doing. And if you're physically capable of doing it, now the ball is in the mentality's court. If you want it bad enough and you invest your mind into the task, then I guarantee you will figure it out. Now, with that being said, let's get started. But before we do, make sure you drop a like right on below. The first thing is the nature of the mind to just move around, go from one thought to the next, one desire to the next, one jealousy to the next. So what you want to do is you want to attach your mind to something strategically. And you're not attaching it in a way where you're getting super angry if things don't work out. You're just investing the mind into a task so you can fully invest yourself in it. In order for you to do this, what you want to do is you want to find the water of the skill. The water? Yes, the water. Think about water. It has so much functionalities. It could clean, it could hydrate, it could power a turbine which generates electricity. Yet, water is always the same. You want to figure out a skill set where you're not looking at the manifestations, you're simply looking at the core element. So if someone goes up to LeBron James, he doesn't say, "Well, I'm a jump shooter, I dunk, I rebound, I defend, blah, blah, blah." He just says, "I'm a basketball player." If someone goes up to Manny Pacquiao, he doesn't say, "Oh, well, I hook, I jab, I defend, I do this, I do that." He just says, "I'm a boxer." Just find the water. In this case, it was basketball player and boxer. What is the skill set that you want to invest in? Once you can learn more about it, now your mind is getting attached to the skill. So that's the first part. The second part that you'll see on a lot of mainstream advice is that you should have a feedback loop or a mentor. Now let's be real. To get a mentor, at times they cost money, and other times we're so early on in the process where we haven't stumbled across a mentor yet. Does that mean we don't begin? Hell no. Use the internet. Use the internet to equip yourself with the basic amount of knowledge to begin. Now notice what I said. I said use the internet to equip yourself with the basic amount of knowledge. Not a fuck ton of knowledge, because then you'll just have analysis paralysis, but the basic amount of knowledge. Armani, how do I decide the basic amount of anything? Well, what I recommend is you choose 3 to 5 independent resources, and all you do is you look out for the patterns. So when I was first trying to learn storytelling, I listened to 1 podcast, 2 YouTube channels, and I read 2 different blogs. And these are all individuals that have no clue who each other are, and they're independent resources. So as I was listening to them or reading them, I noticed a general theme of storytelling. All stories come down to a series of ideas, a character, a conflict, and a lesson. Once I heard these patterns in all these different resources, I knew that those were the core elements of the topic. Once the core elements were found out, everything else is fair game. Now I know I'm ready to begin. So that's the second part. We get enough knowledge to begin. So the third part, beginning. In the beginning stages, your practice session is going to be extremely general. You're going to try to tell a story, and then you're going to be all over the place. You're going to try to shoot a ball into the rim, and it's going to be hitting the backboard. It's going to be hitting everywhere but the rim. But that's what all the practicing in the beginning is about. In the beginning sessions, I recommend that you time yourself, but don't be too strict to a point where you're saying, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. All you're doing is you're gathering data. So you're not necessarily being too deliberate yet. You're making the general aspect where you're gathering data, and we're slowly going to get more and more niched. Okay? So in the beginning stages, what you want to do is you are just gathering data. I always hear that it takes 21 days to build a habit. Not for me. For me, it takes at least 6 months or bust. And for this general aspect, you should have at least 1 to 2 months where you're practicing nonstop without any level of embarrassment. You are just trying to gather data, see what works, see what feels right, and see what doesn't work. All right, so that's all you're doing in this stage. And next, that's where deliberate practice is starting. By the 3rd month, you're at that stage where you know a bunch of stuff that doesn't work. You know a bunch of routines that doesn't work. In this level, what you want to start doing is you want to start timing yourself more. You want to start tracking measurements more. You want to start recording yourself more so you could always watch yourself back. If you're shooting free throws, you understand that practicing for 2 hours is a little too much at this point, so you practice for 30 minutes. You understand now a solid shooting form, which allows you to figure out, okay, I should do this, I should do that. And from here, what you're doing is you're measuring your movements more, and you're allowing your mind to target exactly what matters. In terms of storytelling, for the first 2 months, I was just trying different stories just to gather all the data and just to get all the stories out there. Later on, once I figured out what doesn't work, I started to notice certain quirks that I would have. I started to focus on certain targets that I wasn't focusing on before. Mondays, I'm just going to practice YouTube. Tuesdays, I'm just going to practice podcasts. And from here, I'm able to niche down more. So that's all deliberate practice comes down to. First is you're trying to attach your mind to something. Second, you're trying to gather enough knowledge to begin. Third, you're trying to get to that level where you're gathering data. And fourth, you're niching down and you're getting super specific. In order to be terrific, you need to get specific. And all this is requiring at least a 6-month investment. If you're doing this, what you'll start realizing is that eventually, once you know what you're working on, investing in the task with your mind becomes much, much easier. So ask yourself what you want to become great in and do deliberate practice regarding it. Remember what the piano teacher said. If you practice just with your fingers, time will never be enough. But if your mind is invested in the task, then 1 to 2 hours is plenty. Once you're done with the practice sessions, take your rest. If you did deliberate practice correctly, you'll notice that it took a fuck ton of energy from you and you need to recuperate. So recuperate because you have put in the work. With that being said, best of luck with your deliberate practice journey, and join me on the next episode of the Armani Talks YouTube channel.